Hi, my name's DJ Dunkerley, and I'm the publisher for New Currency Frontier, an investment newsletter on crypto. And today's topic is, now that you're into crypto, here's the one mistake that you don't want to make. And of course, this is a mistake that I have made time and time again since I've been investing seriously in crypto since 2017 now. I bought my first Bitcoin in 2013. I didn't really start seriously investing until 2017, so I have about 4 years of making this mistake. And I thought I would just pass this on to you to see if you could avoid making this mistake and save yourself some grief. And what is that mistake? That mistake is actually not really in terms of investment. The mistake that I make is actually talking about crypto outside of my newsletter. I mean, talking about Bitcoin in some sort of social type situation, like at a business conference that's not crypto related, or at a party, dinner party with friends. And you're probably thinking, well, that's really kind of weird. You write this newsletter, you really should be after publicity. You want to really be evangelize the crypto type thing. And I do that within the constraints of my newsletter. I write articles, I build a mailing list, I publicize it, but I don't really want to talk about crypto outside of the running of the newsletter. And the reason for that is because most people that I've talked with, and maybe I just have really bad luck, just really don't like crypto, say they don't understand it. And when you try to explain it to them, let's just say, for some reason, even though I run a newsletter that has over 15,000 people subscribe to it free, and I even actually have people who pay me for my advice, which is kind of amazing. Uh, in many social situations, I just don't really have a lot of fun talking to people about crypto and about Bitcoin. So my advice to you is, you maybe you've been into crypto, maybe you bought some Bitcoin, some Ethereum, maybe even an NFT. You've bought some kind of weird, NFT artistic type thing, and chances are you've actually done really quite well because you're in the middle of a mania and you want to tell all your friends and all that sorts of stuff. My advice is, don't really do that, because you kind of get in these conversations that really suck all the oxygen out of the air, and they're kind of not really fun situations. And the number one thing that people want to talk about is, Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not money. And it's not just your friends or a person at a cocktail party that will say that. There are literally Nobel Prize winners in economics who really want to get on the internet and Twitter and say, Bitcoin's not money. Here's why. Listen to me talk for 30 minutes. And then, I'm thinking specifically of Paul Krugman, and I'm not going to take too many shots at Paul because the guy has won a Nobel Prize in economics. He's slightly controversial, but I think he's a pretty smart guy. I don't think you really fake winning a Nobel. And there's other guys who I think are kind of fakey, who do the Bitcoin is not money type thing, like that's a big deal. And I don't talk about that. Like if someone says, "Do you think Bitcoin's money?" He says, "Well, I don't care," right? And that's kind of my answer now. Is Bitcoin money? I don't care. And I'm going to say why it's not important. Like, who cares? Nobody cares. It's not important. And if you're interested in hearing why it's not important that Bitcoin is not money, I just want to tell you a story. And I'm going to tell you the story to get the story off my chest. Because this is a story that I always want to tell people at parties. But honestly, when you talk more than 10 seconds, people just want to talk. They want to talk to you and say why they think Bitcoin is fake and going to zero and it's not real money. They don't really want to hear why you think Bitcoin is actually worth something. And you get maybe 10 seconds before they cut you off. But since it's like a video and I get to talk to you for as long as I can, I get to tell my story. And you can always click and turn the button off. And honestly, my ego will not be crushed because I won't even know. But anyways, here's the story and the story is titled, Bitcoin, is it money? Who cares, right? So now imagine this story takes place about 5,000 years ago. In a tribalistic society, you have tribes gathered together who live in peace and harmony. Okay, a little bit of a fantasy, but just work with me on this. And it's a hunter-gatherer society with a little bit. They're just starting to do farming. Most importantly, though, they've they have division of labor. So some tribes have members that go hunting. They hunt for rabbits, larger game, deer, bears, whatever. Let's say this society lives in North America or Central America or something like that. They have people who are gatherers. They gather berries, fruits, roots. Maybe they do a little bit of nomadic farming, and they gather farming in. They also live near the coast, so they do a little bit of fishing. And then it's advanced enough society that maybe they even have artisans who do painting. I don't know. There's a variety of goods, but most importantly, there is division of labor. And when you have division of labor, you have trading. And trading is actually one of the oldest forms of human activity. As far back as you can find evidence of civilization, you see trading. As a matter of fact, trading is the one prerequisites for any type of advancement in a human society, leading to civilization, leading to civilized society. So there's a lot of trading going on. Trading is barter. So, a guy will say, hey, I have a rabbit. Does that give me 3 fish? You're really good at making spear tips. I'm going to trade, I don't know, like a bear skin for X many spear tips. So, and all these tribes are gathering together, and they're essentially trading among each other and using a barter system. And as you know, you don't know, but bartering systems can be very cumbersome and not very efficient. And there's always a continual bazaar of hubbub and a lot of activity just to affect any type of economic transaction. And I know, trust me, you should see where I'm going with this, but bear with me. So the tribes all get together one day and they say, you know what, is there a better way? And they go to a central authority. And by this time they're advanced enough that they have either a council of chieftains, maybe they have a king, maybe they have a high priest, they have a temple. They've got some sort of authority figure. And just for the sake of simplicity, we'll say they have it's a theological society. They have a theology, and they have a high priest. They have an authority that people put their trust in, for the most part. So they go to the high priest and they say, what do the gods have an answer for this? And the high priest is a smart guy, or a priestess, smart girl, whatever, smart lady, will run off and figure this out. What can I do to solve the cumbersome method of bartering? And then they have an idea. They get a bunch of rocks, and then they polish the rocks, and maybe they do some sort of, I don't know, chipping at them to make them do some sort of inscription. They say that these rocks will now be blessed by the gods, and they will be the representation of whatever goods you want to sell. And you can see here that this is the invention of money. And the tribes, all the members of the tribe are thinking, this is amazing, this is great. And then from then on, they take these rocks, and these are used as symbolic representation for goods. You essentially have money. And all these rocks can only be created and blessed by the high priest or priestess in the temple, and all is well and good. And society can move forward because now you have money and commerce can go forward. So that's fine. And everything moves along and everything's great. You may have a bit of problem with maybe as the generations go by, you have a couple of priests who trying to maybe get a little more affluent than they should and throw more rocks in than they should. In times of famine, there'll be a lot of rocks, but maybe not a lot of food going around. So you do have the inflation, and then in times of plenty, you have deflation. All the money things. So that's great. Going forward one day, there is a tribe that's just on the border of the territory that's kind of controlled under the jurisdiction of this high priest. And they're near the seashore. And they have access to a beach that no one else knows. And on this beach are seashells. Small seashells of different colors. Quite colorful, quite pretty. And one of the guys comes back and harvests some of these shells and brings them back to his hut and makes a necklace out of them. And he makes a necklace. Yeah, this is sort of cool. And his daughter loves it, or his wife loves it, or maybe even his son, who's part of a really cool drum circle and is very artistic, likes the necklace. Someone looks at that necklace and thinks it's just really cool. He says, "Make me a necklace." So okay, I have a necklace. Necklace enters it, and everyone looks at it and goes, wow, that's a really nice necklace made with colorful shells. How much do you want for it? And then right away he will say, well, I don't know, I guess this shell's worth like two magical rocks, or 2 rocks of money. And the guy goes, okay, this is great because my daughter likes it, or my son likes it, or something like that. And these shells all of a sudden become very popular among the young people of that society, and there's a demand for these shells. Okay, so there's now an economic incentive for the guy to go back and collect more of these shells. So he collects these shells and keeps bringing them in, and he doesn't, there's not a lot of shells. These shells are produced, by the sea creatures coming up, and there's a limited number each year, but every year more shells get introduced to society. These necklaces get handed down. These necklaces are considered valuable, so they're never thrown away, and what really happens is that these necklaces actually increase in value. As more and more people see these necklaces being made, more people just want them. And it comes to the point where among the young people especially, there's a cultural attachment to these necklaces. So much to the point that people actually break apart the necklaces and take the individual shells, maybe make a wrist bracelet, or maybe they just have individual shells. And then finally, what happens is that among the young people, they start trading the shells. They start trading the individual shells. So they start trading necklaces. They say, okay, I see you have a piece of fish there. Can I give you 3 shells for that? Something like that. And then they also find that because the shells are very light and portable, if they're going on a long journey to the other side, to another village to trade with, rather than take these rocks, which are if you put 10 or 20 of them in your backpack, it's quite heavy, or in your traverse or whatever you have, it's just easier to take the shells along. So they pile up the shells, and they go in there, and they go in the village, and the old people think the shells are stupid. Like the old people just want rocks. But the young people are like, oh yeah, give me the shells, I really like the shells. And the old people sit there and say, well, shells are dumb. Like, what's wrong with you young people? And that's fine. So now time goes along, and these shells get more and more popular, to the point that the high priest hears about these shells that in some case are replacing rocks, replacing the blessed money as a form of payment. And he gets quite upset. And this is kind of an old guy. I don't know. Back in those days, people lived a long time. This guy's like, I don't know, 97 years old. He's so old. And he calls a meeting. He calls an assembly meeting inside the temple. And he orders everyone to come in and listen to him speak on this evil youth thing, the shells, the colored shells. And he says quite emphatically that these shells are not acceptable to society, and these shells are not money and should not be treated as money. And by this time everyone's like, okay, sure. And then they all go out and they listen to him and they pay respect, because this 97-year-old is really very widely respected among the community. He's the high priest. It's all great. No problem. They all head out. So they all go out and they all agree that the shells are not money. And everyone's agreed, because you know what? Like, people get upset if you call seashells money. And who cares, right? Like, who really cares? It's just a word, money. Now, what happens is, are those seashells a store of value? Yes, they're a store of value because enough people believe in the value of the seashells that you can reliably have a stash of those seashells and trade them for fish or meat or spirit points or whatever you need. Are they desired by a significant number of people? Yes. So everything's fine. But seashells are not money. And you know what? Same thing with Bitcoin. Same thing with Ethereum. It's not money. Are you happy now? Good. So let's talk about something else. I'm DJ Don Curley, publisher of the New Currency Frontier, and thanks for making it this far in the video.